You could be arrested for bathing two babies together in the same tub, but you can legally live inside a single office tower disguised as its own tiny city block. Welcome to 71 Dumbest Things About Los Angeles, where we're exposing the wildest true history, like the night the US military actually opened fire on its own sky over a threat that never existed, alongside real absurd laws still on the books, and the myths you probably still believe, like thinking LA's palm trees actually belong here. We're separating which insane stories are documented fact from total fiction, so hit subscribe before we reveal the truth. 1. LA's original name in 1781 stretched past 45 letters. A mouthful, even for the priests who baptized it. Picture a Spanish clerk trying to fit El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora, la Reina de Los Ángeles de Porciúncula onto one tiny land deed. His hand probably cramped halfway through writing it. Locals joked for generations that the town needed its own zip code just for the name. Mail carriers and map makers all groaned under the weight of that title. Eventually, Americans took one look and shrugged. They chopped it down to Los Angeles because nobody had time for syllable gymnastics. Most Angelinos today have no idea their city once needed a full breath just to say hello. 2. Most people imagine LA's founders as Spanish nobles wearing fancy hats. Reality flips that daydream completely upside down. The 44 original settlers who founded the city in 1781 were mostly black, indigenous, and mixed-race families. Not aristocrats at all. Imagine those settlers walking dusty trails toward an empty valley. They carried tools instead of titles and built a pueblo from nothing but grit. No red carpets and no palaces existed back then. Just farmers and laborers staking a claim under a brutal California sun. Centuries later, Hollywood would sell tourists a shinier, whiter origin story. The real founding story is messier, tougher, and honestly way more American than that postcard version. 3. In 1859, California's own governor signed a bill to split the state completely in half. Los Angeles would become its own separate territory overnight. Imagine lawmakers in Sacramento arguing for hours over dividing a state that barely existed yet. Southern California felt ignored by the North and wanted out entirely. The bill actually passed, and even got sent off to Washington for approval. Congress simply sat on it and never finalized anything at all. The Civil War soon consumed the nation's attention, and the idea quietly died. Los Angeles almost became its own country within a country. Instead, it stayed tangled to the rest of California forever after. 4. Most people assume Los Angeles was always part of the United States. That assumption is completely wrong. The city only officially joined America in 1848 after the Mexican-American War ended. Before that, Los Angeles belonged to Mexico and lived under an entirely different flag. Imagine soldiers marching through dusty streets as ownership of an entire city changed hands. Locals woke up one day speaking Spanish under Mexican rule. They went to sleep discovering new American officials taking charge instead. No vote happened and no parade celebrated the change. Just paperwork signed far away decided the fate of thousands. Los Angeles has only been American for less than 2 centuries total. 5. In 1871, one of the darkest nights in American history unfolded right in Los Angeles. A mob of roughly 500 people descended into Chinatown with violence on their minds. 19 Chinese immigrants were lynched in a single terrifying night. Neighbors watched in horror as chaos swallowed entire city blocks. Some victims were dragged from their homes with no warning at all. Others tried desperately to hide and still could not escape the violence. This remains one of the largest mass lynchings in American history. Most tourists strolling through modern Chinatown have absolutely no idea this happened. The city built shops and restaurants directly over one of its darkest chapters. 6. After the horrific 1871 lynchings, justice seemed finally within reach. Several men were actually arrested and put on trial for the killings. Courtrooms filled with tension as prosecutors built their case against the mob. Convictions were eventually secured against multiple men involved in the violence. Then something absurd happened that still angers historians today. A legal technicality in the charging documents let every single convicted man walk free. No prison time and no real consequences followed such a horrific crime. The victims' families received nothing resembling justice for their unimaginable loss. Los Angeles quietly moved on, while the guilty simply returned to normal life. 7. Los Angeles desperately needed water to survive and grow into a real city. City officials found their answer in a quiet valley called Owens Valley. Agents secretly bought up land and water rights using false pretenses entirely. Farmers had no idea they were signing away their entire way of life. Engineers then built a massive aqueduct stretching 233 miles away. Water that once irrigated Owens Valley farms suddenly flowed toward Los Angeles instead. Families watched their crops wither while a distant city thrived off their water. This deception became one of the greatest water heists in American history. Los Angeles grew into a metropolis built on someone else's stolen lifeline. 8. Owens Valley residents were furious after watching their water vanish toward Los Angeles. Farmers who once thrived suddenly faced dying land and dried up livelihoods. Anger eventually boiled into outright rebellion against the city that betrayed them. Throughout the 1920s, locals dynamited the aqueduct an incredible 17 separate times. Explosions rocked the desert as furious farmers fought back against distant bureaucrats. Newspapers dubbed the ongoing conflict the California Water Wars for dramatic effect. Armed guards eventually patrolled the aqueduct to prevent further sabotage attempts. Despite every explosion, Los Angeles never lost its grip on that water. The valley's rebellion became a forgotten chapter in the city's thirsty rise to power. 9. Owens Lake once stretched across roughly 100 square miles of shimmering water. Boats floated across its surface and wildlife thrived along its shores for decades. Then Los Angeles diverted the rivers feeding that lake toward its own thirsty growth. Slowly and steadily, the massive lake began shrinking year after year. By 1926, the entire lake had completely dried into a dusty basin. Winds later kicked up toxic dust storms from that dead lake bed for decades. Residents nearby suffered serious health problems from breathing that contaminated air. A once thriving natural lake became one of America's largest sources of dust pollution. Los Angeles got its water while an entire ecosystem simply disappeared. 10. In 1928, the St. Francis Dam near Los Angeles suddenly and catastrophically failed. Water in the middle of the night before residents even ran the alarm. A wall of water crashed through canyons and towns without warning. Families were swept away in their beds as the flood roared downstream. Hundreds of people died, making it one of America's deadliest civil engineering disasters. The dam's designer had been praised as a genius just days earlier. Investigations later revealed serious flaws in the dam's original construction and design. His reputation and career were destroyed almost overnight following the tragedy. Los Angeles learned a brutal lesson about ambition outrunning careful engineering. 11. Los Angeles never stopped needing water even after Owens Valley ran dry. Engineers extended their reach even further into the Sierra Nevada mountains. Today, the aqueduct system stretches nearly 340 miles from its source. Snowmelt from distant peaks travels an incredible distance just to reach city faucets. Imagine turning on a shower without realizing the water traveled longer than most road trips. Pipes cross deserts, mountains, and fault lines just to keep lawns green in the city. Few residents washing dishes ever think about where their water actually originates. Los Angeles built an empire on borrowed rivers from places most locals will never visit. The thirst that built this city never really stopped growing at all. 12. Early filmmakers had a serious problem back on the East Coast. Thomas Edison controlled nearly every camera patent and sent agents after anyone who used one without paying him. Directors dodged lawsuits constantly while trying to make simple movies. Someone realized Los Angeles offered sunshine, open land, and most importantly, distance from Edison's reach. Studios packed up equipment and fled west like outlaws escaping the law. Imagine directors literally running from legal agents just to finish filming a scene. California became a refuge for rebellious filmmakers, avoiding patent enforcement entirely. This escape from lawyers accidentally created the entertainment capital of the world. Hollywood essentially began as a giant loophole against corporate lawsuits. 13. Being near the Mexican border gave early Los Angeles filmmakers a surprising advantage. If Edison's patent agents showed up, filmmakers could grab their gear and cross into Mexico within hours. Imagine directors keeping getaway cars running, just in case lawyers arrived unannounced. This wasn't paranoia, since real legal enforcers actually hunted unlicensed film equipment across the country. Studios sometimes shot scenes with an escape route already planned in advance. The border became an unlikely safety net for a fledgling industry. Nobody expected international geography to protect Hollywood's earliest creative rebels. That nervous energy and constant risk somehow fueled incredible creative innovation. Hollywood's founding story includes far more legal drama than most movies ever show. 14. Long before movie stars and giant studios existed, Hollywood was just an ordinary citrus ranch. In 1886, a couple named their property Hollywood simply because they liked how it sounded. Orange groves and quiet farmland covered land that would later host massive studios. Nobody involved imagined the name would someday represent global fame and fortune. Decades passed with nothing but fruit trees and dusty roads dominating the area. Then, filmmakers arrived searching for cheap land and endless sunshine for shooting movies. The quiet ranch slowly transformed into the entertainment capital of the entire planet. Today, tourists snap photos completely unaware they are standing on former farmland. Hollywood's glamorous name started with oranges instead of movie stars. 15. Charlie Chaplin built his own film studio right on Sunset Boulevard during Hollywood's earliest days. The buildings still stand today as a rare physical link to silent film history. For decades, the property hosted major studios producing beloved television and film content. Then, something wonderfully strange happened to this historic landmark. A giant statue of Kermit the Frog now sits perched right on top of the building. Imagine tourists walking past expecting Chaplin's ghost, and instead finding a giant puppet frog staring down at them. History and absurdity collided right there on a busy Hollywood street. Few passers-by realize silent film royalty once worked beneath that same rooftop. Hollywood history and pure goofiness now share the exact same address. 16. Walt Disney's massive entertainment empire started in the most unglamorous place imaginable. He began animating cartoons inside his uncle's tiny one-car garage on Kingswell Avenue. Picture young Walt, hunched over a drawing table surrounded by tools and spare parts instead of animation studios. There were no cameras crews or big budgets in that cramped little space. Just raw determination and a stubborn belief that cartoons could become something bigger. From that garage grew an empire spanning theme parks, movies, and entire cities of entertainment. Few visitors driving past that quiet residential street realize what began there. A humble garage eventually launched one of the most powerful entertainment companies on Earth. Magic really can start in the most unexpected corners of a city. 17. Beverly Hills today screams luxury mansions and celebrity wealth beyond imagination. Its origin story looks nothing like that glittering reputation at all. Investors originally drilled the land searching desperately for oil beneath the soil. The drilling operation completely failed to strike anything profitable at all. Frustrated developers abandoned their oil dreams and pivoted towards selling residential real estate instead. Slowly, wealthy families began building extravagant homes across those failed oil fields. Over decades, Beverly Hills transformed into one of the richest zip codes on the entire planet. Imagine oil workers drilling dry holes exactly where mansions worth millions now stand. Beverly Hills owes its glamorous existence to a spectacular business failure nobody predicted. 18. Los Angeles once operated the largest streetcar network anywhere on planet Earth. Trains stretched across more than 1,000 miles connecting neighborhood cities and entire regions. Imagine hopping on a trolley and traveling incredible distances without ever needing a car at all. Commuters relied on this massive system for work, shopping, and everyday errands. The network practically defined how people moved throughout Southern California for decades. Then, everything slowly changed as automobiles began dominating American culture and infrastructure. Tracks were eventually ripped up and replaced with wide car-friendly roads instead. Today's notorious traffic jams stand where efficient trains once quietly carried millions. Los Angeles traded one of history's greatest transit systems for endless gridlock instead. 19. In 1949, a shocking federal case revealed conspiracy behind Los Angeles losing its streetcars. General Motors, Standard Oil, and Firestone were formally convicted for buying up transit companies. Prosecutors argued these companies intentionally dismantled streetcar lines to boost car and tire sales instead. Imagine executives secretly plotting to bulldoze train tracks just to sell more automobiles. The companies paid relatively small fines and faced almost no serious consequences afterward. Los Angeles lost its world-class transit system due to corporate self-interest. Decades later, the city desperately began rebuilding rail lines it once tore apart. Modern commuters now sit in traffic partly because of decisions made generations ago. Los Angeles quite literally paved over its own transportation history for profit. 20. In 1940, the Arroyo Seco Parkway opened, connecting Los Angeles and Pasadena directly. Historians consider it the very first true freeway built west of the Mississippi River. Drivers experienced something completely new, since no traffic lights or intersections interrupted their journey. Imagine motorists marveling at smoothly flowing traffic for the very first time in their lives. Engineers designed curves meant for much slower vintage automobiles from that earlier era. Today, modern cars speed along those same original curves built for a slower age. Safety experts still consider parts of this historic freeway dangerously outdated by modern standards. That pioneering road eventually inspired the sprawling freeway system covering all of Los Angeles today. One small parkway forever changed how an entire nation would eventually travel. 21. Los Angeles County today contains more than 650 miles of freeway crisscrossing the region. Planners once sketched a far more ambitious network decades ago. Additional routes were drawn up promising to connect every corner of the county. Neighborhood protests, budget shortages, and shifting priorities killed many of those planned routes permanently. Some freeways simply stop abruptly where construction crews gave up. Drivers still encounter strange dead ends and unfinished ramps leading nowhere useful. Engineers quietly abandoned decades-old blueprints once public opposition grew too strong. Los Angeles ended up with a freeway system that never reached its original vision. The result is a sprawling, half-finished maze millions navigate daily. 22. Angel's Flight sits tucked between towering buildings in downtown Los Angeles, looking almost like a toy. This tiny funicular railway proudly claims the title of shortest railway on Earth. Two orange cars named Sinai and Olivet climb a steep hill barely 300 feet long. Workers built it back in 1901 to help residents avoid an exhausting climb. Over the decades, the railway closed, reopened, and closed again due to accidents and renovations. Locals treat riding it almost like a rite of passage despite the absurdly short trip. Tourists often laugh, realizing the entire journey lasts less than a minute. Downtown skyscrapers now tower over this quirky relic from an older era. From 23. Los Angeles International Airport now ranks among the busiest airports on the entire planet. Its beginning looked nothing like today's massive terminals and endless runways. Back in the early 20th century, the land was simply known as Mines Field. Farmers grew wheat there, while pilots occasionally used the open space for small air shows. Crowds gathered to watch daring stunt pilots perform loops and dangerous tricks over the fields. Nobody attending those shows imagined jumbo jets would someday roar across that same land. Slowly, the wheat field expanded into runways, hangars, and eventually a full airport. Millions of travelers now land where farmers once harvested crops every season. 24. For more than 50 years, Los Angeles enforced a strange rule, limiting almost every building height. From 1904 until 1957, city law capped nearly all structures at 150 feet. Officials worried taller buildings might collapse dangerously during a major earthquake someday. Developers grumbled constantly, but mostly followed the strict height restrictions without much resistance. Skylines across the city stayed remarkably flat compared to other major American cities. Architects had to get creative, making buildings feel grand without going vertical. Eventually, engineering improvements convinced officials that taller buildings could be built safely. Once the law lifted, skyscrapers rapidly transformed the once low-rise skyline. 25. City Hall stood as the single legal exception to that strict height law for decades. While every other building stayed capped at 150 feet, City Hall soared far higher. Officials granted this exemption specifically because it served as a government landmark. For roughly 40 years, City Hall proudly remained the tallest building anywhere in Los Angeles. Its silhouette became instantly recognizable, appearing in countless films, television shows, and postcards. Residents joked that even architecture in this city bent the rules for the powerful. Eventually, the height law changed, and skyscrapers finally surpassed City Hall's once dominant presence. One building literally towered above an entire city's own restrictions. 26. Modern Los Angeles City Hall stands proudly on land, with a history stretching back centuries. Long before government buildings and busy streets existed, the area hosted a Tongva indigenous village. Families lived, farmed, and gathered along that ground generations before Spanish settlers ever arrived. Officials built government offices without much thought toward the land's original inhabitants for a long time. Modern historians and indigenous communities have since worked to acknowledge this overlooked history properly. Plaques and educational efforts now attempt to honor the Tongva presence that came first. Visitors snapping photos of City Hall rarely realize ancient village life once thrived on that exact spot. History quietly layered modern politics right over indigenous roots. 27. Bunker Hill once overflowed with elegant Victorian mansions built for wealthy Los Angeles families. Grand porches, ornate towers, and detailed woodwork lined the streets throughout the early 20th century. By the 1950s, the neighborhood had fallen out of fashion and slipped into disrepair. City planners decided the entire historic district needed to disappear completely for redevelopment. Bulldozers leveled nearly every single Victorian mansion within just a couple of decades. Towering glass skyscrapers eventually replaced the ornate wooden homes that once defined the hillside. Preservationists still mourn the loss of an entire architectural era, wiped out so quickly. Old photographs remain the only proof such grand homes ever existed. 28. Beneath the busy streets of downtown Los Angeles hides a forgotten Prohibition-era secret. Networks of hidden tunnels once allowed bootleggers to smuggle liquor without stepping outside. Business owners and gangsters used these underground passageways to move alcohol between buildings undetected. Police raids often failed, simply because suspects vanished into tunnels invisible from street level. Some tunnels connected directly to speakeasies hidden behind ordinary-looking storefronts and offices. Workers today occasionally stumble upon these forgotten passageways during construction and renovation projects. Historians believe many tunnels remain sealed off and completely unexplored to this day. Downtown Los Angeles literally has a hidden city running beneath its sidewalks. 29. Beverly Hills High School looks like an ordinary campus filled with wealthy students and manicured lawns. For years, the school secretly hid something far stranger beneath its polished exterior. A working oil derrick disguised as a decorative tower quietly pumped oil right on campus. Students attended classes unaware that machinery beneath their feet extracted crude oil daily. Officials profited from the oil while presenting the derrick as harmless campus decoration to outsiders. Parents eventually raised concerns once the truth about active drilling became public knowledge. Environmental worries and safety questions eventually forced changes to the school's unusual arrangement. Few schools anywhere can claim they once operated a disguised oil rig on campus. 30. Los Angeles sits directly above one of the largest urban oil fields anywhere on Earth. Wells hidden behind fences, buildings, and decorative walls still pump oil throughout the city today. Many residents drive past active drilling sites daily without realizing what they are looking at. Companies disguise pumps behind fake office buildings, colorful murals, and ordinary-looking fences. Neighborhoods sit remarkably close to industrial drilling operations most cities would never allow. Health advocates have raised concerns about pollution linked to oil extraction near residential areas. Despite growing criticism, drilling continues quietly across various pockets of the city. The city famous for movie magic still runs partly on old-fashioned oil money. 31. The Los Angeles River sounds like it should be a wild natural waterway winding through the city. Reality looks completely different from that peaceful image. After deadly floods devastated neighborhoods throughout the 1930s, engineers took drastic action. They paved the entire riverbed, turning it into a 51-mile concrete channel. Water now rushes through smooth concrete walls instead of natural banks and soil. Films and shows have used this drainage channel as a backdrop for countless car chases. Environmentalists have spent recent decades pushing to restore sections back to something more natural. Most residents driving past have no idea this concrete ditch is technically a river. 32. Los Angeles sits directly on top of a major fault line running beneath the entire region. Despite that constant earthquake risk, the city spent decades building an unusually flat skyline. Officials feared taller buildings might crumble catastrophically during a serious seismic event. Architects designed low, sprawling structures instead of ambitious vertical towers for generations. Engineers eventually developed techniques allowing buildings to flex and sway safely during earthquakes. Confidence grew, and skyscrapers finally started rising across the once flat horizon. Modern towers now use advanced dampers and flexible foundations to survive violent shaking. Los Angeles quietly built an entire identity around fear before finally trusting engineering again. 33. Palm trees define the postcard image of Los Angeles more than almost anything else. Surprisingly, these iconic trees are not even native to the region at all. During the Great Depression, city officials needed a way to create jobs quickly. Planting 25,000 palm trees in 1931 alone became a massive employment program. Workers lined streets and boulevards with trees chosen purely for appearance rather than ecology. These trees provide little shade and require significant water to survive in a dry climate. Despite their impractical nature, palm trees became permanently tied to the city's identity. Los Angeles built its most famous symbol almost entirely as a Depression-era jobs project. 34. In the middle of a public park sits something genuinely bizarre for a major city. The La Brea tar pits still actively bubble with thick black asphalt today. Visitors watch sticky tar seep up from the ground, surrounded by museum exhibits and walking paths. This natural phenomenon has trapped animals for tens of thousands of years throughout history. Joggers and families walk past these pits without necessarily processing how strange the sight really is. Scientists continue studying ancient bones pulled from beneath the sticky black surface regularly. Few cities anywhere can claim an actively bubbling prehistoric hazard sitting inside a public park. Los Angeles casually normalized one of the strangest natural landmarks in America. 35. Scientists working at the La Brea tar pits have made incredible discoveries buried beneath the asphalt. Fossils pulled from these pits date back an astonishing 38,000 years into the Ice Age. Saber-toothed cats, mammoths, and giant sloths have all been recovered from this sticky trap. Researchers continue excavating new specimens directly beside one of Los Angeles' busiest boulevards. Traffic roars past while paleontologists carefully extract ancient bones just feet away from the sidewalk. Museums display these fossils, giving visitors a direct link to prehistoric California wildlife. Few places on Earth offer such a strange contrast between ancient history and modern city life. Los Angeles somehow keeps the Ice Age bubbling right beneath rush hour traffic. 36. Griffith Park stands as one of the largest urban parks anywhere in the United States. Its origin story carries a genuinely dark and unsettling twist. The land was donated by a wealthy man named Griffith J. Griffith to benefit the public. Years after his generous donation, Griffith shot his own wife during a violent confrontation. He survived legal consequences and eventually served limited time before returning to public life. Despite this disturbing history, his name remains permanently attached to the beloved park. Millions of visitors hike and picnic there without knowing the donor's troubling personal history. Los Angeles built a beloved public treasure around a deeply complicated and violent legacy. 37. Griffith Observatory sits perched above Los Angeles, offering stunning views loved by millions of visitors. Its construction came from funds tied directly to the same controversial donor who shot his wife. Griffith J. Griffith left money in his estate specifically intended to build the observatory decades later. City officials accepted the funding despite his troubled and violent personal history. Construction finally finished years after his death, giving Los Angeles one of its most beloved landmarks. Visitors today gaze through telescopes, completely unaware of the donor's disturbing backstory. The observatory represents both scientific wonder and an uncomfortable legacy tied together permanently. Los Angeles built beauty and controversy into the very same hillside structure. 38. Caltech once housed ambitious young scientists eager to build rockets during the early 20th century. Their experiments proved dangerously explosive and eventually got them banned from campus entirely. Refusing to give up, these scientists moved their dangerous testing into a dry riverbed instead. Explosions and fires became a regular hazard during their risky rocket engine experiments. Despite the danger, their persistence eventually led to groundbreaking advances in rocket propulsion technology. That riverbed testing ground eventually grew into what's now known as the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. NASA missions exploring distant planets trace their roots back to those reckless early experiments. Los Angeles quietly hosted the explosive origins of America's space exploration ambitions. 39. The scientists testing rockets in that dangerous riverbed earned quite an unfortunate nickname from colleagues. People started calling them the Suicide Squad due to how reckless their experiments seemed. Explosions, injuries, and constant close calls defined their daily work routine for years. Despite the terrifying nickname, these researchers refused to abandon their risky rocket propulsion goals. Their stubborn persistence through dangerous conditions eventually produced groundbreaking advances in aerospace engineering. That same reckless group eventually formed the foundation of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Modern space missions owe their existence partly to this nicknamed group of daring engineers. Los Angeles nurtured America's space program through explosions, danger, and a genuinely morbid nickname. 40. The famous Hollywood sign visible across Los Angeles originally looked completely different from today's version. Back in 1923, the sign actually read Hollywoodland, spelling out an entire extra word. Developers built this massive sign purely as an advertisement for a new real estate development. Nobody intended the sign to become a permanent cultural symbol representing the entire entertainment industry. Over the following decades, the sign fell into disrepair and lost several letters entirely. Eventually, the land portion was removed, leaving just the recognizable Hollywood lettering standing today. What began as a simple real estate billboard transformed into a global symbol of fame. Los Angeles turned an advertising gimmick into one of the most recognized landmarks on Earth. 41. Actress Peg Entwistle came to Hollywood chasing the same dream millions of others pursued relentlessly. Struggling to land meaningful roles, she fell into deep despair over her career. In 1932, she climbed to the top of the Hollywood sign in a moment of desperation. From the giant letter H, she jumped to her death below the landmark. Her body was discovered the following day by a hiker walking nearby trails. News of her tragic death spread quickly, turning the sign into a symbol of shattered dreams. Ironically, a letter arrived days later offering her a role she never accepted. 42. In 1942, panic gripped Los Angeles as military forces opened fire into the night sky. Soldiers fired more than 1,400 anti-aircraft rounds at what they believed was an enemy aircraft. Air raid sirens blared while searchlights swept frantically across the darkened city skyline. Residents woke up terrified, believing Japan had launched a direct attack on American soil. Despite the massive barrage, no wreckage, enemy plane, or confirmed target was ever found. Investigators later debated whether weather balloons, stray aircraft, or pure panic caused the chaos. The event became known as the Battle of Los Angeles, despite no enemy presence confirmed. 43. LAPD. Chief William Parker took control of the department during a turbulent era in Los Angeles. His strict, controversial leadership throughout the 1950s reshaped policing culture across the entire city. Parker emphasized discipline data and image control, unlike previous police leadership before him. Critics accused his department of aggressive tactics and troubling relationships with minority communities. Despite the controversy, his modernized approach to policing gained national attention from television producers. That attention directly inspired the hit television show Dragnet, portraying LAPD as disciplined and heroic. Audiences across America watched a stylized version of his controversial department every week. 44. During the chaotic 1942 anti-aircraft panic, a newspaper photograph captured strange lights across the sky. Editors retouched the image before publishing it, enhancing certain details within the photograph. That altered photo eventually became one of the most famous supposed UFO images in history. Conspiracy theorists pointed to the picture as proof of extraterrestrial visitors over Los Angeles. Investigators and historians later explained the lights were likely anti-aircraft shells and searchlights combined. Despite explanations, the image continued circulating for decades, fueling UFO folklore across the country. Wartime panic and photo editing created one of America's most famous alien myths. 45. Just 2 nights before the chaotic anti-aircraft panic, something genuinely alarming actually happened near Los Angeles. A real Japanese submarine surfaced off the coast near Santa Barbara, under cover of darkness. Sailors aboard fired shells directly at an oil refinery sitting along the shoreline. Explosions and panic spread through nearby communities as residents realized an actual attack was underway. Damage remained minor, but the psychological impact on nearby residents proved absolutely massive. Fear from that real attack likely primed the public for panic just 2 nights later. Military forces became hyper-alert, expecting further attacks along the vulnerable coastline. 46. During World War II, fear and suspicion spread rapidly throughout Los Angeles neighborhoods and communities. Authorities began detaining Japanese American residents accused of signaling enemy aircraft using suspicious methods. Investigators claimed lights radios or coded messages were being used to guide Japanese pilots. No credible evidence ever confirmed these signaling accusations against any detained residents. Despite the lack of proof, entire families lost homes, businesses, and freedom based on pure suspicion. Detention camps, far from Los Angeles, became home for thousands of innocent families overnight. Decades later, the government formally apologized, acknowledging the injustice inflicted upon these communities. 47. In 1943, a strange eye-burning smog suddenly rolled across neighborhoods throughout Los Angeles unexpectedly. Residents rubbed their stinging eyes while coughing uncontrollably as visibility dropped dramatically across the city. Rumors quickly spread, suggesting Japan had launched some form of mysterious chemical attack against America. Panic grew as officials struggled to explain the strange, yellowish haze choking city streets. Scientists eventually identified the culprit as industrial pollution combined with unique local weather conditions. This smog crisis actually helped launch early environmental regulations targeting industrial air pollution citywide. What felt like wartime chemical warfare turned out to be an early pollution disaster. 48. In 1943, tensions boiled over between American servicemen and young Mexican-American men across Los Angeles. Sailors attacked teenagers specifically for wearing stylish zoot suits considered unpatriotic during wartime rationing. Mobs of servicemen roamed streets beating young men, while crowds sometimes cheered the violence on. Police responded by arresting the beaten victims rather than the attacking servicemen themselves. Newspapers largely portrayed the violence as justified, further inflaming racial tensions across the city. The riots exposed deep racial prejudice hiding beneath patriotic wartime unity being celebrated nationally. Community leaders later condemned the violence, demanding accountability that rarely actually followed. 49. Central Avenue thrived as the heart of Los Angeles' vibrant segregation-era jazz and music scene. Talented black musicians performed nightly in clubs lining this legendary stretch of avenue. Segregation forced black musicians to organize their own separate musicians' union, apart from white counterparts. Despite facing discrimination, the avenue produced extraordinary talent, influencing jazz music nationwide for decades. Legendary performers honed their skills within this tightly knit, supportive musical community. Clubs buzzed nightly with energy, creativity, and resilience despite the city's segregated realities. Eventually, integration and shifting demographics caused the avenue's musical prominence to fade significantly. 50. In 1947, Los Angeles became consumed by one of its most infamous unsolved murder mysteries. A young woman named Elizabeth Short was found brutally murdered under horrifying circumstances downtown. Newspapers nicknamed her the Black Dahlia, turning the case into a nationwide sensation overnight. Investigators pursued countless suspects, yet never definitively identified who committed the horrific crime. Over the following decades, more than 60 people falsely confessed to committing the murder themselves. Detectives dismissed each confession after failing to match critical details of the actual crime. The case remains officially unsolved, continuing to fascinate true crime enthusiasts even today. 51. Evangelist Amy Semple McPherson was one of the most famous religious figures in 1920s America. In 1926, she vanished suddenly while swimming at Venice Beach without any warning. Followers and reporters searched frantically, fearing she had drowned somewhere along the coastline. Weeks later, she reappeared, claiming she had been kidnapped and held captive in Mexico. Investigators found major inconsistencies in her story, including reports she was seen with another man. A grand jury investigated, but ultimately never proved she had lied about the kidnapping. The scandal fascinated the nation, blending religion, celebrity, and rumor into one bizarre story. Los Angeles gave America a preacher whose disappearance rivaled any Hollywood mystery. 52. In 1965, the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles erupted into one of America's most significant uprisings. Tensions over policing, poverty, and racial injustice finally boiled over into widespread unrest. Over 6 days, rioting spread across the neighborhood, leaving 34 people dead. More than 1,000 buildings suffered damage as fires and clashes consumed entire blocks. National Guard troops eventually arrived, attempting to restore order across the affected area. The uprising exposed deep frustration among Black residents facing systemic discrimination for generations. Investigations afterward highlighted failures in policing, housing, and economic opportunity throughout the community. Los Angeles confronted a painful reckoning that reshaped conversations about race in America. 53. Chavez Ravine once thrived as a tight-knit Mexican-American community filled with families and homes. City officials announced plans to redevelop the land, promising public housing for residents displaced. Instead, officials later shifted the land toward building a massive new baseball stadium. Nearly 1,800 families were forced from their homes, despite promises made earlier. Some residents resisted eviction physically, as authorities eventually removed them from their own properties. Bulldozers leveled the neighborhood, making way for what became Dodger Stadium instead of housing. Former residents and descendants still carry painful memories of losing their entire community. Los Angeles built a beloved ballpark directly atop a broken promise to displaced families. 54. The Dodger Stadium land deal required public approval before construction could officially proceed. Voters headed to the polls to decide whether the controversial project could move forward. The election drew a turnout of 62.3% among eligible voters citywide. This remains the largest non-presidential election turnout in Los Angeles history to this day. Supporters argued the stadium would boost civic pride and bring Major League Baseball permanently. Opponents pointed to displaced families still reeling from the earlier Chavez Ravine evictions. The measure ultimately passed, clearing the way for stadium construction to finally begin. Los Angeles residents unknowingly cast history, making votes over a baseball stadium. 55. In 1969, the peaceful image of Los Angeles shattered following a series of horrifying murders. Followers of cult leader Charles Manson brutally killed multiple people inside a Benedict Canyon home. Actress Sharon Tate was among the victims found murdered in her own residence that night. News of the killings spread panic throughout wealthy neighborhoods previously considered completely safe. Residents began installing security systems and hiring guards, fearing further violence across the city. The trial that followed became a national media sensation, lasting many months afterward. Manson and his followers received lengthy sentences following their eventual conviction for the murders. Los Angeles lost its sense of safety overnight following one of America's most infamous crimes. 56. In 1966, tensions boiled over along the famous Sunset Strip in Los Angeles unexpectedly. A newly enforced curfew law targeting young people sparked outrage among local youth. Crowds gathered in protest, leading to clashes between demonstrators and police officers nearby. Riots broke out along the Strip as frustration over the curfew intensified dramatically. National media covered the unrest, highlighting growing tension between youth culture and authority. The protests eventually inspired a famous song capturing the frustration of that turbulent era. Buffalo Springfield released the track reflecting the mood of rebellious young Angelenos. Los Angeles sparked a cultural anthem born directly from a curfew dispute. 57. In 1994, Los Angeles experienced one of the strangest television events in American history. Former football star O.J. Simpson led police on a slow-speed chase down the 405 freeway. Millions of viewers across the country tuned in live watching the surreal chase unfold. Remarkably, the broadcast drew a larger television audience than that year's Super Bowl. Crowds gathered along overpasses cheering as the white Bronco slowly rolled down the freeway. News networks interrupted regular programming to cover the bizarre, unfolding spectacle nationwide. The chase became a defining moment, blending celebrity crime and media spectacle together. Los Angeles turned a police pursuit into one of television's most watched events ever. 58. The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum holds a truly rare distinction among sports venues worldwide. It has hosted the Olympic Games twice, separated by more than 5 decades apart. The stadium first welcomed athletes during the 1932 Olympic Games held in Los Angeles. Decades later in 1984, the Coliseum once again hosted the Olympics for a second time. Few stadiums anywhere on Earth can claim hosting the Games across such different eras. Generations of athletes competed within the very same historic stadium walls decades apart. The Coliseum became a living symbol connecting 2 very different chapters of Olympic history. Los Angeles proudly stands as a rare repeat host across nearly a century. 59. The 1932 Olympic Games held in Los Angeles introduced something entirely new to the world. Organizers built the very first purpose-constructed Olympic Village specifically for competing athletes. Previously, athletes had stayed scattered across hotels and makeshift housing during earlier Olympic Games. This new village allowed athletes from different nations to live together during the competition. The concept proved so successful that future Olympic Games adopted the same village model permanently. Athletes praised the innovation for fostering camaraderie between competitors from different countries entirely. Los Angeles quietly reshaped how the entire world would experience future Olympic Games afterward. One city's innovation became a permanent fixture of global athletic competition. 60. Los Angeles stands as one of the most linguistically diverse cities anywhere on the planet. Today, more than 224 different languages are spoken throughout the city. Walking through different neighborhoods, residents might hear Spanish, Korean, Armenian, Tagalog, or Farsi within blocks. This incredible diversity reflects waves of immigration spanning more than a century of history. Schools throughout the city often serve students speaking dozens of different native languages simultaneously. Restaurants, markets, and community centers reflect this remarkable blend of global cultures daily. Few cities anywhere on Earth can claim such an extraordinary concentration of global languages. Los Angeles quietly became one of the most linguistically rich cities in human history. 61. Los Angeles hosts more film and television production happening on its streets than almost anywhere on Earth. Walking through certain neighborhoods, residents frequently encounter camera crews, trucks, and temporary filming permits blocking traffic. Entire blocks sometimes transform overnight into fake storefronts, hospitals, or police stations for a single scene. Locals often complain about parking restrictions and street closures caused by constant production activity nearby. Despite the inconvenience, the industry provides enormous economic benefits, supporting thousands of local jobs citywide. Tourists sometimes stumble upon actual filming without realizing a movie or show is being made. Residents joke that spotting a film crew feels more common than spotting actual celebrities. Los Angeles quietly runs as a full-time backdrop for the entertainment industry daily. 62. Randy's Donuts stands as one of the most recognizable buildings in Los Angeles, despite selling only pastries. Its giant rooftop donut sculpture has appeared in more films than most working actors ever will. Directors frequently use the shop as a quick visual shorthand, representing Los Angeles in movies. Alien invasions, car chases, and romantic comedies have all filmed scenes beneath that giant donut. Tourists regularly stop simply to photograph the sign, rather than actually buying any donuts inside. The shop has operated continuously since the 1950s, becoming an accidental cinematic icon over decades. Few landmarks anywhere combine fried dough and Hollywood fame quite as effortlessly as this one. Los Angeles turned a giant fake donut into a genuine movie star. 63. Los Angeles technically enforces an oddly specific law regarding how parents can bathe their children. According to this old rule, it's illegal to bathe two babies in the same tub simultaneously. Nobody seems entirely sure why lawmakers felt compelled to specifically address this bizarre scenario. Parents today rarely realize this strange regulation even exists, buried within old city codes. The law likely originated from outdated health concerns about sanitation during an earlier era entirely. Modern enforcement of this rule appears essentially non-existent, despite technically remaining on the books. Locals often laugh upon discovering such a specific and oddly protective law still exists. Los Angeles somehow legislated bath time decades ago and never bothered repealing it. 64. Long Beach enforces an unusually strict rule regarding what residents can legally store inside their garages. According to local regulations, garages must contain an actual car rather than general storage items. Homeowners packing garages with boxes. Furniture or old equipment technically violate this specific city ordinance. The rule likely aims to prevent garages from becoming cluttered fire hazards or informal storage units. Residents joke about hiding boxes whenever inspectors might drive through checking garage compliance citywide. Enforcement varies widely, with many homeowners quietly ignoring the rule without any real consequences. Still, the law remains officially on the books, surprising newcomers who first hear about it. Long Beach apparently cares deeply about where residents park their actual vehicles. 65. The 6th Street Bridge once stood as one of Los Angeles' most iconic downtown landmarks for decades. Built back in 1932, the bridge eventually developed a hidden structural problem within its concrete. Engineers discovered the original concrete mixture contained a chemical reaction causing silent internal corrosion over decades. Experts nicknamed this deterioration concrete cancer due to how invisibly it weakened the structure. Officials determined the bridge could no longer safely remain standing, despite showing no obvious exterior damage. Crews demolished the historic bridge entirely during the 2000s, replacing it with a modern design. The new bridge now features distinctive arches while honoring the memory of the original structure. Los Angeles lost a beloved landmark to a slow, invisible chemical betrayal decades in the making. 66. Most fans assume the Dodgers have always belonged to Los Angeles since baseball feels tied to the city. In reality, the team originated in Brooklyn, New York, playing there for many decades. In 1958, team owners made the controversial decision to relocate the franchise across the entire country. Brooklyn fans felt devastated watching their beloved team abandon the borough for sunny California instead. Los Angeles welcomed the Dodgers enthusiastically despite the team having zero previous connection to the city. The relocation permanently reshaped professional baseball, introducing the sport to the West Coast for good. Brooklyn residents still hold lingering resentment over losing their team generations after the move happened. Los Angeles gained a beloved franchise built entirely on another city's heartbreak. 67. During the decades-long height restriction limiting buildings to 150 feet, clever architects found loopholes anyway. Two downtown towers, Richfield Tower and the Eastern Columbia Building, exploited a decorative tower exception in the law. Designers added ornamental spires and rooftop structures, technically classified as decoration rather than habitable building space. This clever workaround allowed both buildings to visually exceed the city's strict height limitations legally. Richfield Tower featured a striking black and gold design, while Eastern Columbia showcased vibrant turquoise terracotta. Both buildings became celebrated examples of Art Deco architecture thriving under restrictive regulations. Architects proved that clever design could outmaneuver even the strictest bureaucratic rules imaginable. Los Angeles unintentionally inspired creative loopholes disguised as beautiful rooftop decoration. 68. Most Americans assume Napa Valley always dominated the country's wine production throughout history. Surprisingly, Los Angeles actually held that title first during the 1800s. Vast vineyards once covered large sections of the city, producing wine that supplied much of America. This thriving wine industry eventually collapsed due to a combination of plant disease and prohibition laws. Pests devastated vineyards, while prohibition later banned alcohol production entirely across the country. Once prohibition ended, growers rebuilt the industry elsewhere rather than returning to Los Angeles. Napa eventually rose to prominence, filling the void left by LA's forgotten wine empire. Los Angeles quietly lost its forgotten status as America's original wine capital. 69. Los Angeles enforces noticeably stricter rules regarding late-night restaurant service compared to most major American cities. Certain zoning laws limit how late establishments can legally serve food within specific neighborhoods citywide. Restaurant owners sometimes struggle navigating these restrictions, especially in areas catering to nightlife and tourism. Late-night diners often find fewer options compared to cities known for round-the-clock dining culture. City officials cite noise complaints and neighborhood concerns as reasoning behind these particular restrictions. Some business owners argue the rules unfairly limit economic opportunity within the competitive restaurant industry. Despite ongoing complaints, these late-night restrictions remain firmly embedded within local city ordinances. Los Angeles apparently prefers its nightlife scene quieter than most people might expect. 70. Los Angeles once enforced an unusually specific law regulating how many dogs residents could walk simultaneously outdoors. According to old regulations, walking more than 2 dogs at once required obtaining a special permit. Dog owners with larger packs found themselves technically breaking city law during ordinary neighborhood walks. Nobody seems entirely certain why officials felt compelled to regulate group dog walking so specifically. The rule likely stemmed from concerns about safety or nuisance complaints from frustrated neighbors nearby. Enforcement of this bizarre law appears essentially non-existent within modern daily city life today. Residents discovering this old regulation often react with genuine disbelief and amused confusion. Los Angeles apparently once treated dog walking as a serious matter of public policy. 71. Los Angeles boasts more high-rise buildings than any other city along the entire West Coast today. This towering skyline feels ironic considering the city's long history of restricting building height severely. For more than 50 years, local law legally forbade constructing anything taller than 150 feet. Once that restriction finally lifted, developers rushed to build skyscrapers, reshaping the city's skyline permanently. Modern towers now dominate downtown, representing decades of pent-up architectural ambition finally released. Engineers incorporated earthquake-resistant technology, allowing these towers to rise safely despite seismic risks. What was once a flat, cautious skyline transformed into a soaring modern cityscape entirely. Los Angeles spent generations forbidding height, only to eventually build higher than its coastal rivals. That's Los Angeles for you. A city that banned tall buildings, drained an entire lake, and still somehow became the center of the universe. So here's a question for you. Out of all 71 dumb facts, which one absolutely blew your mind? Drop it in the comments below and let us know. And if you love learning the weirdest side of American history, hit subscribe right now so you never miss an episode from Dumbest Things. See you in the next one.